It's hot. That's it. Full stop. Cut the clip. No, no, no. Hey, y'all. Welcome to Leftovers Vlogs, episode 11. I think we're on now. To be honest, I don't know how this episode is going to go today because I don't have a script. I super duper don't have a script. Usually when I say oh, I don't have a script, it's just oh, I've got a really skinny skim milk 2% script. But no, today I'm literally just laying in my bed away from the computer because every time I try to record this any other time, by my computer, first of all, because it's hot, I'm sitting there sweating at the screen, so there's that. But anytime I try to walk around or sit at my computer or look at anything to remember what to say, I get about 45 minutes in and then I just stop. So that's what happened the other night, and it's always really annoying when that happens because obviously I just wasted 45 minutes on something that's not gonna actually be put to use. So yeah, well, okay, the crazy thing about this episode, obviously you've seen the title, I'm pretty sure I'm still gonna call it full-blown creative crisis, but the crazy thing about this episode is that had I done this episode, I've been trying to do this episode for the past 3 weeks. Had I done this at any other point, had I done it 3 weeks ago versus last week versus today, any of those episodes could have been vastly different. Cause the crisis, so it's I'm not gonna say the episode title is dishonest because I'm gonna be talking about the crisis, but I'm actually out of the crisis right now. I actually just finished what I needed to finish this past weekend, but I'll, as I usually say, I'll say more about that later. But at any point, if I had done this at any point, this episode at any point, then they would have had vastly different tones, and it's kind of funny to think about. I actually almost wish I had recorded something from back when I was rolling in the deep 3 weeks ago. I wish I had recorded something so I could know, or at least put that clip in this episode too. But the only recording I have is the recording that I did last Wednesday, I want to say. All I know is that it was one of those middle way recordings because 3 weeks ago when I wanted to record it, the problem was I was deep in the problem, and then that was me kind of seeing the light a little bit, and now I'm completely out of it. So this is gonna be one of those hindsight recordings, or taking record of what was happening. Anyway, that's a long way to say that there's probably going to be a lot of rambling in this episode because, again, I don't have a script, and I'm trying to remember. Honestly, I wrote a script, and I've rewritten the script so many times that I basically know what I want to talk about in this video, but the way that I want to say it is going to be a little hairy. So, but I'll just treat it like I'm treating my streams where it's all live, so I have to figure out what to say there, so I can probably figure out what to say for this here. But yeah, oh, that being said, I don't know why I said that being said. I don't think it has anything to do with what I was just talking about, but that being said, again, we're gonna have a really good speed paint for this episode. This is a character that I designed who's pretty important to another character's backstory, but I don't know if this is too early to say, but I guess you can just keep this in mind if you want. If you really care, you can just keep this in mind for when it actually the characters actually start appearing on the screen. But from left to right, their names are Rhoda, Raksha, and Ronnie. You know what? I can just tell you. So Rhoda is the little Growlithe, Raksha is the trainer, and then Ronnie is the Arcanine, the Growlithe's mom. So I'm really excited about that speed paint, not screenshot. I'm really excited about that speed paint. And now that I'm thinking about it, it would have been probably better to put on the Q&A, which, sorry, this is not the Q&A video. I know the last time I said I was going to do the Q&A video for the next video, but this is one of those things that I have to like get it off my chest in order to find peace, which is why I wanted to do it like 3 weeks ago, and then like this episode would be the Q&A video, but that didn't work out. So, but yeah, this is probably a better video to put for the Q&A thing with the like questions about character design and all of that. But honestly, I have the government officials character design, so I still have that in tow, so I can like put that with that whenever I do get the Q&A video done. But for today, we'll just throw that on there. I should really, now I'm thinking about it, I should really do more. You know what? I need to do some character designs here soon, so I gotta make sure I actually make a habit of like recording them again, because I've been working from a buffer of videos for so long, except we don't talk about that one episode where there was nothing going on, it was just a podcast. But I've been working from a buffer of videos for so long that I've gotten out of the habit of like, oh, let me draw something tonight so I have a video to make, or I have a video I can record, stuff like that. So yeah, I think the preamble for the rest of this is out of the way, so we can actually get into the topic of today's episode, which I'm gonna slowly get into because we don't start out with the crisis just yet, right? So last time I believe I mentioned, or last time I was working on my character stuff, where I had the character sheets that I was doing, and then I also had the thing where I like went through each season of Leftovers and had all of the characters and had checklists for like what I wanted to establish in each season. So that was my big character episode last time, and I remember mentioning like, oh, I'm so excited, like now I get to actually write the episodes, and but I don't know how I'm gonna work on how I'm gonna tackle it, because the main thing that this hiatus has taught me, or I guess the main thing I've been focusing on with regards to process in this hiatus, is breaking things down into smaller things, because I can get overwhelmed really easily. That's anxiety for you. But breaking things down into smaller steps, so that way I can take it one step at a time. So when it came to the episodes, I was trying to figure out like, okay, how, because I don't want to just go in and be like, all right, I'm going to start one episode at a time. I'm going to write out the synopsis or the whole log line or whatever of the episode, one episode at a time, going chronologically forward, because I knew certain episodes, like we're 16 chapters in Leftovers, so I knew like a few more chapters, like maybe up to chapter 20. I knew like in my mind what I wanted to do, but I didn't have the details, and I just knew that I was going to get caught up in the details if I had done that. So I was trying to figure out how to ended up making more worksheets. This whole hiatus has been like worksheet central, but I was trying to figure out how to do that, and I made a kind of a similar worksheet to the characters, where actually no, it's not really that similar to the characters, because unlike the characters where they just had the checklist of like what to establish, I had a synopsis, so it would be like if I combined the character sheets and the checklist, the character checklist sheets. But for the episode worksheets that I ended up making, I had three, not three, it was, well, okay, 3 for the storylines, 3 check boxes for the storylines, and then 3 check boxes for like what kind it was. So like if it was a main part of the story, or a roots chapter, or an omake or an extra. I just like calling it omake to go back to like my manga roots. I don't know. I'm a weeb. Kill me. I mean, sue me. But I got really potentially dark just now. And I lost my train of thought, but that's okay. We got it. Yeah. Oh, so I did these worksheets on stream. I did these worksheets on a I think it's the Work With Me stream is what it's called, and there's 2 videos on my channel if you want to like. 'Cause I'm gonna try to avoid going into like a whole description, because I already actually explained it and showed what I was doing on these streams. So if you want to check those out, maybe I'll put a link to them, or maybe that'll be the end card. I don't know, for this video, but they're on my channel. They're pretty recent, because I was just working on them recently, because working on the episodes of Leftovers was a July thing, so they're up there pretty recently. But yeah, so that was my goal, was to, well, with those streams in particular, my goal was to write down and fill out the sheets for episodes or chapters. I always get, I think I might have mentioned this last time, or I might have mentioned it on the stream, because I was having like real bad deja vu about this just now. I always don't know what I'm going to use for Leftovers, like if I want to do chapters or if I want to do episodes, because even though I do chapters right now for like when I upload them as like chapter, whatever. I think of them like episodes. I think of them episodes of a show. Used to be episodes of Steven Universe, where or some around there, like a Cartoon Network episode where it was like 11 minutes. It didn't necessarily have to be episodes of Steven Universe, but Steven Universe was like a pretty big influence in Leftovers, how I structured it in the beginning with like the plot of the day, the chapter of the day, with, like, regards to how things went down, but or how things were structured. But I've gone from the Cartoon Network approach episodes, where they were like 11-minute episodes, to 30-minute episodes. And I was thinking of them like anime, but then recently I've been watching a lot of like 30-minute episode series. So Heartstopper, Our Flag Means Death, and the way they like get shit done in these episodes is way more inspiring than like anime 30-minute episodes. Now granted, I've been watching a couple of anime. Actually, I think it's just been one anime. Spy X Family is the anime in question, but they get stuff done too. But the way the anime structures itself across a whole series is different than I think Netflix series or Western series, especially because their Netflix series are pretty limited episode runs. But this is a whole tangent I was supposed to get into way later on in like one of the other scripts of this video. But I guess we're just getting into it now, or not gonna get into it completely, but yeah, so that's, God, I told you it's gonna be rambly today. I told you. Back to the sheets and what I was doing on the stream. I was supposed to be doing filling in the synopsis and figuring out because I had 3 checklists on the worksheet. I was supposed to be filling out the synopsis and then figuring out what I wanted to put for the checklist, because obviously more than 3 things are going to be established in each chapter. So like, how is I going to break down the categories for the checklist? What I ended up doing was I had the synopsis for each chapter, and then I also had to like remake the sheets like on stream too. Like you can see me do it on the stream, because I didn't have any of the chapter names, or I didn't have a space for the chapter names. It was pretty interesting. But what I ended up doing was having the synopsis for the chapter, and then having on the 3 checklists I had world building, character stuff, and miscellaneous. So then I would just list out like what's character, Asadi does a thing, semicolon, Sammy does a thing, you know, stuff like that. So that was where I was. I was trying to get all of those. I think it took me like 2 days to get chapters 1 through 16, which are the chapters that are already out for leftovers. I think it took me like 2 days to get those filled in on the sheet. And the reason why I wanted to start there instead of just starting with chapter 17 is so I could look at what I could look at what I'd already made and figure out how to, one, figure out how I've been pacing the series up to this point, but then also, you know, just figure out how to phrase things on this worksheet. So I got those done, I think July 2nd through 3rd or something like that. I think I did chapters 1 through 10 on stream, and then like the rest of them I was like, I just want to I just want to like do them by myself. So yeah, I got those done, and then the next step for me after I finished that was to move on to chapter 17 onward. And chapter 17 is interesting because like I actually have chapters 17, 18, and 19 maybe. Yeah. I want to say I actually have chapters, I'm going to say 17 and 18 for sure, maybe 19 too. Already fully scripted, and I was already working on chapter 17. Like, I have a bunch of thumbnails for chapter 17, but I was running into something that's going to come bite me in the ass later on in this video, but I was running into an issue of pacing as far as like what I wanted to, all the character beats and stuff that I wanted to hit, and then like how long the chapters were going to be, because on the one hand I really like to take my time with character stuff and like building up, you know, world building and stuff like that, but on the other hand it's like you can take too long with that sort of thing. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. I don't even think this is the right place to explain it, but just know that chapters 17, 18, and 19 ended up just becoming chapter 17 by the end of all this. And then that was the end of, because we're in the Slateport arc now. It's not really like a spoiler. We're in a Slateport arc. Actually, I didn't, so this hiatus happened in like a weird spot, because it was, chapter 16 had a pretty definitive ending for that, like what was going on at that time. But the Slateport arc, because I've started breaking the arcs of season 1 into like the places that they visit, or at least unofficially anyway. The Slateport arc is not actually over. The Slateport arc would have had like I said 17, 18, and 19 on there, but like then I combined that into chapter 17. So it's just like we're gonna spend, you know, another chapter and a half maybe in Slateport when we come back in 2023, and then we're moving on. So it's not even like a clean break, but you know, it's whatever. But then so moving on from like the whole Slateport thing, the next arc, now I'm just like, because I wasn't gonna, alright, in my original script, I was gonna be like, oh yeah, like I was gonna call the arcs by town. I was gonna call them like little interesting names, like, oh, the Rich Town arc and the Grass Town arc, and so I didn't spoil anybody, but like I literally just self-reported, like, so you know that they're all, whatever arcs I'm talking about are gonna be like different towns and stuff. So I might as well just go ahead and say the names and not like the cute little nomikers or whatever it was. So the next arc is the Mauville arc, which is, I mean, obviously it's next on the map, the Hoenn map, if you're familiar with Hoenn. If you're not familiar with Hoenn, then you don't have to be spoiled. Great. But the next one is the Mauville arc, and this is an arc where I've thought about it a lot because it's next. So all of this stuff that is happening in the Mauville arc is all I had to do was basically like take what I was thinking about already and just like break them into chapters, because I had like a bunch of lists of things that I wanted to happen, and I didn't know when it was going to be organized. Like, that was the main issue with all of this, like with just working on leftovers and like writing and stuff in general, is that I have this whole list of things, but like organizing them into chapters and making it so that it's like paced well enough and you get what the information, the key information that you need in each chapter is it. That was the hardest part, especially since in this stage that I'm working on, or that I was working on, the worksheet section, I wasn't like listing out everything that happened in a chapter. It was just the important things, and the synopsis was just very, very general. So even if I was like, oh yeah, this can happen in the chapter, this would be nice to happen in the chapter, I still might not have been able to even put it down on the worksheet, in the checklist or whatever, because like it was too detailed, if that makes sense. So then I would get like stressed out because I would feel like I'm missing key information, when really, like, that's another, I'm gonna go into that more later, I think, probably, maybe, because now I'm getting into the full-blown creator crisis bit, and like the Mauville arc was cool. We were chilling in the Mauville arc. So it's not like the creator crisis didn't really happen around here, but it was like, obviously, now that I'm thinking about it and like saying it out loud, it was starting to creep in a little bit. Like some of the pressure that I was putting on myself to like pace things, and then also to, get in like a lot of the world building stuff, it was starting to creep in Mauville arc. But after I wrote that down, I think Mauville is, I can't remember the exact amount of chapters, but the Mauville arc. Hello? Hold on. I think my Amazon delivery is here. Don't know if I'm gonna keep that in the video or not, but we're gonna open up the door. Alright, so back in bed I go, because I was really comfortable. I should record more episodes like this. Where was I? Oh yeah, okay. Mauville arc, we were chilling. So the next arc was supposed to be a little mini arc. In between now I've written myself into a corner, because do I? Yeah, you know what? Yeah. If you're watching this, you know what it is. It's a little mini arc in between the Mauville arc and the Verdanturf arc. And so I was like, okay, this is another chapter that I thought about for a long time, where I was like, oh, this is like, all this stuff is gonna happen. I'm really excited because, I can like focus on like a lot of character aspects in this chapter, and a lot of like world building aspects, but like they kind of marry, like the concept of the mini arc, that little mini arc, they kind of marry the character beats and the world building beats pretty well, I guess. So I was like super excited about that. So I went and I wrote that down. I did my little like synopsis, because I had already thought about it. And then I got to the Verdanturf arc, and the Verdanturf arc is also something that I had been thinking about. But what I had I guess underestimated was how much pressure I was putting on myself to figure out a way to get across these character beats and get across this world building information and pace it perfectly so that it feels impactful, and not overload people, like not overload the readers, but then also, I feel like I said readers really weird just then, not overload the readers, but then also to not like overload myself, because one of the main things that was kind of a bit disheartening about the whole Slateport arc thing, where it was like chapters 17, 18, and 19, is that that's just 3 chapters. That's like 3 whole chapters. And the crazy thing about comic artists is that we really just be doing it all for what? Like we really, you ever think about that? Like if you're a comic artist, obviously you know, but or maybe you haven't thought about it, but we do it all. We write. We somebody posted a meme in my server, and maybe I'll put it up on the screen, and then like I'll give them credit too when I put it up. But it's like a comic artist really just do everything with regards to their work, and sometimes you just like it just kind of gets real hairy. It just kind of gets it's a lot. Real intimidating, I guess, is the word that I'm going for. But in that moment, I was like trying to figure out just the story aspects, and then this is where the full-blown creator's crisis comes in. Verdant Turf arc was kicking my ass, jumping me in the streets. Like, that meme where it's like, fight back! Fight back! That was me on the ground around Verdant Turf arc. Because, like, Verdant Turf, and I didn't even think that it was going to be this bad, because I knew, like, there's something that happens in Verdant Turf where, the Verdant Turf arc, where I am, I'm super duper excited to, like, get to it. So here I am thinking like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a breeze. I can finally like write this out now instead of just, thinking about it. I can get it out of my mind. And, turns out, yeah, I can get it out of my mind, but like, I gotta get it out of my mind perfectly. And I just started like, I said the Verdant Turf art was kicking my ass. It was really just me kicking my ass, right? Like isn't that just how that goes for you as a creator? You just start like putting a bunch of pressure on yourself, and before you realize it, you are not having fun doing the thing. Like the Verdant Turf arc took me so I finished the chapter, I think 16, July 3rd is when I finished putting that on the sheet. For the next couple days, I finished up to the Maulville arc, and then like the little mini arc between those two. And then for the next 2 weeks, I was stuck on Verdant Turf arc, and it got real bad. And this is where the full-blown creator's crisis comes in, because, so here's some background too. I was working from July 1st to July 19th, because July 19th is when the event happened. But I was working on something for my job that had me getting up super early in the morning, because like I couldn't. That's a whole other issue. But I was working on that. That was a lot of pressure. And then I was also trying to figure out the Verdant Turf arc. And then I was in this like really weird like Phantom Zone thing. I don't even know if you call it a Phantom Zone thing, or if you can call it like Phantom Zone anything, where I was super excited for the end of the month, but like also because something was going to be happening, but then also not excited for the end of the month, because that was my my deadline for getting the season 1 worksheets done. Because here's my deadline for my schedule for the rest of the hiatus, basically. So I wasn't supposed to be still writing at this point, but that's fine. It's whatever. But my deadline was get season 1's worksheets, or the season 1 synopsis worksheet done by the end of July. Then I want to have at least like 7 to 8 chapters scripted, so like all of them done, dialogue ready to go, so I can like do pages. I want to have 7 to 8 chapters scripted by the end of August, and then I want to have by September I want to start doing like a buffer of pages so I can like make my return in 2023. so that's my general like schedule. Um, and that's why I said that, like, I was super excited for something to happen at the end of July, but then also I was rolling in the deep. So I with this whole leftovers thing, so I was like, I'm excited for the end of July to get here, but I'm also terrified for the end of July to get here because I have a deadline that I might not even hit, and just all of that pressure and the stuff that I was doing at work, the work stuff that I was doing, all of that just like made a crock pot of like, that's where the I keep saying that's where the full blown creators crisis happened, but like that, yeah, all of that added up to the full blown creators crisis because at a certain point, like obviously I was putting pressure on myself. I had like a bunch of different a bunch of different sheets of paper where I think this is might be the closest I have to like recording how or what I was going through at the time, because it feels so distant. It feels so far away now. Like I didn't just have a panic attack for 2 weeks. Like it just doesn't feel real anymore. And now that I'm like out of the weeds per se. But that the closest I think I might have come to getting that whole situation recorded is when I was like yelling at myself in my notebook of like, we're getting this done today. Me trying, like, all of the different times I was trying to write out what happens in the Verdant Turf art, how it happens, what order it happens in, and because my main issue was like obviously the character beats and the world building stuff and everything, but the order of it, the how it happens and the pacing of how it happens. And then also, okay, to be fair, it wasn't just that. I also ran into this issue of feeling like all of these chapters were just, because I had to do the checklist where I had to figure out what I was going to establish. The reason why it didn't feel fun anymore is because I ran into this problem of feeling like all of these chapters were just build up, and all of these chapters were just like vehicles for world building. Because like when you're doing a synopsis and you're doing just like checklists, you don't actually get to get the fun shit in there, like dialogue and little things that people do in the actual chapters. Like you can think about it, but then you have to also think about the utility of it in regards to how how it's gonna play out, and like, do I want to spend time on this? Is it gonna mess up the pacing? But that goes to the whole that goes back to the whole like pressure thing. Like you do have to think about it, but you don't have to think about it as hard as I was thinking about it. That shit had me in here struggling. Like there were times where I couldn't get to sleep at night, and then because of the job thing, I was getting up at like 5:30, which 5:30 is not like, I mean, nobody wants to get up at 5:30, am I right? Like, but it's not like a super duper early time to get up for me personally. I usually get up at 6:30, so it's only like an hour difference. But that hour made all the difference when it came to this work project that I was working on. But you pair that with the fact that I couldn't get to bed until like 1 because I was just thinking about all this stuff, thinking about the work stuff, thinking about what I'm going to tackle with the work project the next day, and then also thinking about like that's the other thing too that I'm realizing that I left out of my notes in like every iteration of my notes for this episode, is that I was just mentally exhausted. And like the work project was, yeah, that was mentally exhausting, but like thinking about all and sometimes writing down, but mostly it was in my head, thinking about all these different scenarios in the Verdant Turf art and how they were going to play out, and reorganizing them in my head. It was just mentally draining. And that also is why I did this hiatus, because a lot of leftovers has just been planned out in my head. So to the fact that like when or to the point where whenever I'm like, okay, I want to sit down, write this chapter out, it comes out because I've been thinking about it for like 3 years. And it's just exhausting. But none was so exhausting as like trying to figure out how to perfectly summarize the Verdant Turf arc chapters this time in this time period. And there was one morning where I woke up. I can't. It was like towards the end of the whole struggle. So I'll say like, God, I think I finished writing I finished summarizing the Verdantur arc. I want to say July 24th. So I was working on it from like the 7th to the 20. I think it was the 24th. I'm pretty sure it was the 24th. Because I had to do double time for the rest of the chapters, because that's just Verdant Turf. We gotta hit everywhere else, you know. And that was the thing that was also like freaking me out, because I was like, man, if just the Verdant Turf arc is taking this long, then what the hell am I gonna do for everything else? Like, we still have a whole region left. What is this? And it got to the point where I woke up at 4 in the morning one time, and I usually whenever I was getting up at 5:30 for the work thing, I would move my bathroom time. I would get up at 4 and then come back and lay for a little bit or go back to sleep for about an hour and a half. But I woke up at 4 one morning, and I was just in here going through it. Like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna get this project done for work. Like, I don't know if like I have what it takes to, you know, do all of this leftover shit. Like, am I trying to do too much? Do I need to go back to the drawing board to, you know, because I want to focus on obviously the character stuff and the world building stuff, but like I want them to kind of work in tandem, and I want the characters to feel like they have character, like they're not just you know, vehicles of like world building stuff. Like, that's one of the main reasons why maybe this is a hot take, but that's one of the main reasons why I'm having a hard time with Marvel Phase 4, the MCU Phase 4 right now, is because the characters feel less like actual characters, and the movies, I guess, feel less like vehicles for the actual characters and more like vehicles for this whole multiverse thing that they're setting up. But that's for another time that will probably never come, because I don't really need to talk about the MCU on this channel. But just thinking about, like, I wanted to do all this stuff with the politics, and I'm just like, can I do this? You know, am I capable of doing this? Am I capable of like forget the fact that I had been building up, you know, forget the fact that people would comment on Leftovers world building and how they liked the world building up to that point, you know, the visual world building and stuff, and the characters up to that point. Forget what I'd done up to that point. I was just in bed like, oh my god, I suck as a creator. Like, this was just, and then I had a moment where, for the first time in my 7 years of working on Leftovers, like, I think maybe the only time I had thought about this was before working on Leftovers, where I was just like, you know, getting into those pre-project nerves. But for the first time in 7 years, I was just lying in bed and I was like, you know what? I could just not even do this shit. Like, I could just, why? For what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why am I even putting all this work into this if it's not fun? Because, like I said, at that point, it really was not fun anymore. That Verdant Turf arc, it took me through it. It took me through a lot and like, thinking back on it now, and maybe this is maybe having a hindsight episode is good, because I really was gonna do an episode where I was just in the midst of frustration. But maybe having hindsight is, you know, good, because then I can like reflect on it. Now that I'm thinking about it, the everything else has been, I'm not gonna say everything else has been so effortless, because like, yeah, some of the other stuff came easy, but I also hit a couple snags with another part that I'm not gonna go into. But like, just thinking about it now, like, that whole situation was just like, I don't know, it was surreal, and how much pressure I was putting on myself. I think that's the main takeaway from this, is that I was just putting a lot of pressure on myself, and, you know, lack of sleep lack of sleep, I think it gave me less patience with myself too, because like if you don't have any hours of sleep and you're already tired, and then you have like limited amounts of time because you're trying to get to bed early, it kind of makes your window of like trying to work smaller. And then also it makes your ability to see the forest for the trees like way smaller, because I was also freaking out about the fact that like I really wanted to start working on the scripts in August, and I really wanted to start doing like my buffer of pages, because I want to have at least 3 chapters of leftovers buffered out by the beginning of 2023, because I want to come back in 2023. I miss working on leftovers, and I miss interacting with with people, with my audience, and like that was another thing that like was fucking me up, because I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to extend my hiatus. Like if the Verdant Turf arc is taking this long, then like how am I gonna finish the rest of this by the end of July? And I'm gonna have to extend my hiatus. And then that's when I was like, you know what, I could just not even do this shit. Like I could just cancel the series. Now, you know, don't worry, I'm not gonna cancel the series. I was just being mad dramatic at the time, but it was just not feeling fun. Like that was, and then okay, again, I'm all over the place, but when you have anxiety, those of you with anxiety know, when you have anxiety and then you have anxiety about a thing, right? And then you entertain a thought, it just makes your anxiety worse. Like the fact that I entertained canceling leftovers as a thought, like it even crossed my mind. Like the fact that I entertained it, I feel like I'm saying like a lot, I'm sorry, as a thought, it that freaked me out even more, because it's like, oh my god, does this have validity? Like, am I actually trying to cancel the series? Like, is this, you know, when people say that if you're drunk, you say the things that you want to say, that was me. I was like at my lowest point. Am I saying the things that I really want to say? Like, Aang, help me! I'm at my lowest point. Man, that was a very dark kind of moment. And then I just kind of had to deal with it, because I was doing the work project. So it's not like I could take time off to or it's not like I could take mental time off to just like veg out and do work. I can't say exactly what the work project was, because I just don't want to go back into it, but also I just don't want to like risk anybody watching this from my job and then being like, oh yeah, like but if you if you watch this, if you're my coworkers and you're watching this, you know what the project was. So I couldn't like veg out on that, because that wasn't a mindless project. So it was just a lot of like my head smoking, because it was just a lot of brain work, and then brain work for something that I wanted to get over with and done as soon as possible, and then brain work for something that I really, really wanted to get right. And that led to me, I think either that morning when I woke up, it was at some point in time, shit just switched. Like, I don't know exactly when it happened. I want to say it was that, like, the evening of that morning when I had woke up, and I was, like, panicking. I was in here in bed, like, in cold sweats and shit, and that's when I had the whole, like, am I doing this right? Like, that whole thing of, well, I should just quit leftovers. But that, I think it was that evening where it just kind of hit me that, like, I don't know if y'all know this or not, but like, Leftovers is my first comic. Like, usually I'll be like, oh, I do this shit. I don't do this shit. Like, I don't go here. You know, normally, like, I'm very new to this. And it's my first time executing a story, like, on this scale, or well, really just at all. Like, I've done little fanfic stuff, and I did, like, some, you know, one-off stories and stuff back in middle school and everything, but to execute a story from beginning to end and God, to have all these damn characters. Like, why did I do this to myself? Yeah, it's my first. This is my first time doing this, and so it kind of hit me that I'm just like, yeah, I'm not gonna get it perfect. It's just not gonna happen, you know. And I had to kind of, at some point in time, I had to really make peace with the fact that I'm just not gonna get it perfect, even if it's not your first story, you know. Even if you have even if you've done stuff before and this is like your 10th story or something, it's never gonna be like super perfect, because it's, and that sounds like really condescending, but I promise you I don't mean it like that. I feel like you guys know what I mean. Or at the very least, it's not going to be perfect for everyone, because that was one of the main things that I was trying to one of the main issues that I was having with regards to this process is that I was trying to figure out, like, okay, what's the audience, like, what the pacing wise, like what's going to work best for the audience, and what's going to do, you know, what's like gonna be more impactful for the audience. And I forgot at a certain point that, like, I've started this shit for me. Like, this is my comic, you know, and I am Leftovers #1 fan, so I had to kind of think back on, you know, that, and how I also started this specifically as an improvement project. Like, those of you who read Leftovers and are wondering, like, oh, you know what, every chapter, every, you know, first few, they can say up to chapter, shoot, it might be 10. It's still going. It's still going, to be honest. Like, maybe 13 through 16 had a consistent style, but like every chapter before that had a different style, and that was intentional. I intentionally did that so I could improve myself, and so I didn't have to worry about, you know, looking back on chapters and feeling like, oh man, this is really rough, like I want to redo this. Like that like the whole me being new at this thing was a part of the threading the threading the themes of Leftovers. That was at the core of the shit. So I just kind of had to reconnect with that and just remember that, like, this is for me. But also, on the same exact time I had that that realization, because when I was having that realization, I was like, oh yeah, I really like working on character stuff, and I should just, if I want to do little weird character moments, or like take forever making little character stuff, then I should just do that, because this is for me. At the same time where I was thinking about that, I also had like a reverse epiphany in a way, to where it's like, I pride myself, or I have prided myself on being approaching Leftovers from a fandom perspective, where, you know, you have a work, and sometimes they'll have characters and they'll have their traits be little throwaway lines, and it's like, I always, whenever I watch, you know, stuff like that, I'm always like, man, I really wish they explored that more. And so then you have fan fiction, and you have like all these fan works and everything that you can explore that with. And I always had prided myself on being the type of person who was going to explore that in canon with Leftovers, because like, when you make a fan project, because Leftovers is obviously, it's a Pokemon fan comic, but when you make a fan project, that project, and whatever, you know, fans branch off of it, that project is the canon, and then whatever branches off of that, you know, that those works are the fanon. And then within those, like, this is like a weird thing that I was thinking about, like, it makes a lot more sense in my head, but when you have a fan project like that, whatever fans you have that branch off of that, they consider that the canon, they work off of that as the canon, and stuff like that. So canon is not just referring to the original idea. Like, Pokemon is obviously like a canon, and then Leftovers is a fanon too. But like, if fans make things for Leftovers, then they refer to Leftovers as the canon. So this is just a long-winded way to say that like there's a reason why in canon works creators don't focus, they don't give like whole chapters to throw away stuff like, oh, this character likes to brush their teeth a certain way. There's a reason why they don't do that, and why like fandom just is able to do that. Like that is what is, that is something that has a place in fandom. But in canon, you kind of have to maintain a pace. You have to maintain, you know, the genre. You can't just have like, you know, oh, this vampire, how does this vampire, you know, brush their teeth, as a little slice of life thing in this, you know, drama. You know what I mean? So that was kind of the realization that I had with Leftovers, where I'm just like, damn, I want to do all this cool little character stuff, but like not everything needs to be focused on in the way, or should I say hyper focused on, because that was my power for a bit. My power was like, oh, I hyper focus on all this stuff in like other you know, stuff that I'm a fan of, and that kind of makes it so that kind of like gives me the power to think about all this shit that maybe creators don't actually think about, and then I can like embellish on that in my own stuff. And it's like I call this realization the stick a quarter up your ass because you played yourself, because that was what was making this so hard with like the Verdant Turf arc in particular, is because I wanted to focus on all these like other cute little character moments, and it's like those just don't have a place in the story. Like they can be implied. Like that's another thing too, is that I sometimes I just think of Leftovers as like, it's my comic, and I don't think about the fact that it does have fans in the way that you might think of like fans. I don't know where I'm going with this, but basically I gotta like remember that I have an audience, and an audience is going to interpret things the way they want to interpret things, and they're going to embellish on stuff the way they want to embellish on stuff. Like, oh my god, wait, now I'm remembering this, like somebody wrote a little fan story about Sammy and Cohen going to get flowers, and it was just the cutest shit. And like I would have loved to have put that in the story, but if it's not furthering the plot, which is what the epiphany that I'm getting at now, the grand conclusion to all of this, if it's not furthering the plot, it risks coming off as meandering. So I love having little stuff like that on the side, but I realized with the Verdant Turf art that like I have to keep it efficient. I have to run a tight ship, basically. And then if I want to do, you know, a little side comic on the side, or a little meme or whatever on the side, I can do that. But like for the main story, I have to keep it efficient. And that, you know, was also like, I keep it efficient, but also remember that this story is for you. And trying to maintain balance between those two is what I've been doing for the remainder of July, because surprise, I actually did hit my deadline for, as far as like getting all of season 1 finished by the end of July, with Company coming over. Company is what I was excited about by the end of July. But like I'm excited for, or not excited, but like I am proud of myself because I also got my work done too. That's another thing. But like I had a point here and I can't remember what it was. All I know is that this episode is having this off my chest is, God, it feels great. It just feels so good. And then I also, you know, I'm glad that I was able to kind of come to a conclusion and kind of like make the point that I wanted to make, because I feel like I also had I feel like I also developed some conclusions while recording this too, and like some realizations while recording this too. But ultimately I ended up like zooming through the rest of, like, after I got to the Vertiturf arc. There was another arc that I had an idea for. I had an idea for just about everything because I did the whole brainstorming thing in the beginning of this hiatus. But as far as like details and stuff, I had certain ideas for stuff that was in season 1. You know what's actually kind of wild, now that I think about it? When I did that brainstorming arc, or when I did that brainstorming sheet in the beginning, I like didn't know, I didn't know anything about the government of Leftovers, and I didn't know what seasons. Like, I had an idea of what things were gonna be in what season, but like I just, there was so much I just didn't know about Leftovers when I first started out in January, and it's just kind of incredible now to I'm patting myself on the back, but it's kind of incredible now to just think about the fact that I have the entire first season, like the episodes, planned out, and planned out, not scripted. I still have to script because I'm giving myself this, because like, even though I still have to script, or else I don't have anything to go off of for pages, I still am very proud of the fact that it is planned out, and I'm actually thinking about more stuff with season 2 too, and I'm very excited to hop into that, but I don't want to hop into that too quick. I think I'm gonna just focus on season 1 first, and then I'm going to, once I start like actually making pages, I'll have days where I'm working on page buffer, and then working on season 2 worksheet, stuff like that. So I'll alternate them, because season 1 is obviously more important because it's the closest, it's coming up the soonest. So particularly like episode 17, I'm so excited to get to that one. But yeah, there's that, and then there was something else that I wanted to mention that I cannot remember. It was something to do with, like, I don't know, the worksheets and stuff, and like the episode count and everything. I guess I'll just end it here. I think I've pretty much said what I wanted to say. Whatever else I want to say can just be in the next episode, I guess, because I'm gonna be working on episodes for a long time now, or chapters for a long time now, and that's all pertain to chapters, so it can just go in the next episode if need be. But yeah, Jesus, I've been recording for 57 minutes, and I'm actually really surprised that it had, because I had to turn the AC off to record this, and I'm actually really surprised it's not as hot as I expected it to be. Like, it's actually cooled down a little bit. It's like 7 o'clock p.m. over here. So, yeah, I think I guess what the next step is just next step is starting to script. Oh, actually, okay. Next step, yes, it's starting to script, but also I realized while I was working on the season 1 episodes and stuff that, like, because Leftovers is not a Nuzlocke, I haven't really given much thought to the battle. So I need to like take time off to like figure out what the characters, like all the teams and stuff, what their teams their move sets and stuff are, and like their experience with battling, and what kind of strategies they use and stuff like that, especially since we've got some gym battles coming up. So I gotta do that, and then maybe I should make it like finish 5 to 6 scripts for like August. I don't know, I'll play it by ear, but that is where I am at now. I really wish I could remember the main thing or the other thing that I was going to say, because I felt like it was kind of like a profound ender to this. Wait, okay, so I actually realized what I wanted to say, and it was as, well, not profound, but it was as like big of a thing as I thought it was going to be. So one of the main things that has come out of this like me figuring out what all of the season 1 episodes are is that, like, in the beginning when I was writing leftovers, mainly between, I want to say between chapters 10 through 16, or the original 17 through 18 if you count those when those were written, or when those are like part of the story. One of the main things that I noticed is that I would just cram everything I could into there, all of the character moments, all of the world building stuff, because I didn't know if I would forget it, if I would forget it, or forget to touch on it, or if I would find a place for it. But the best part of this whole hiatus and this whole, planning out the episodes is that all of this stuff has a place now. And so I don't have to, and this goes with the pacing thing, that I like noticed with, or that I had a realization about with Rodent Turf, is that I don't have to cram everything into one chapter, or this arc in particular, because I have a place for it now. And if I don't have a place for it this season, I can just recontextualize it. I can just recontextualize it and put it in next season. And it's so pleasant to just have a place for all of these things, even though the things I need places for are a lot of things, which was, big reason why it take me so long to write chapters just in general. But back before I started the hiatus, but I now have a place for them, or I have the opportunity to find a place for them, and that's just really damn cool. So yeah, that was that was the thought. Here is the official ending of Picard, or not Picard Peruses. Damn it, I'm so close. Leftovers logs. Okay, bye.